I'm Mr. MegaManFan. This is Genesis Does, and today we're looking at Panorama Cotton, released exclusively for the Mega Drive in 1994. And let me start out by saying I do not own a copy of this game. You do not own a copy of this game. And unless your name is Elon Musk, there's no chance you can afford a copy of this game. It goes for exorbitant amounts of money. $550 loose, $620 complete, an astounding $1,820 brand new and sealed. So what's driving those prices so sky high anyway? Well, there's a few things that factor in. First, there's the fact this is exclusive to Japan, as previously noted, which makes it more desirable both in Japan and in other parts of the world. People want to own a physical copy of it because it's harder to find. You know how that works. Second of all, it's the third in the Cotton series, so if you collect the Cotton series and you want every game in the Cotton series, then naturally you've got to have it. Third, low print runs because of the fact that in 1994, the Genesis was already starting its slow and inexorable march towards being the previous generation system replaced by the PlayStation, the Sega Saturn, and the Nintendo 64. So they weren't going to make that many physical copies of it anyway, just because of the fact there really wasn't an incentive to have a large print run for something you wouldn't sell many copies of. And finally, there's cheesecake. I'm not sure why, but I am censoring it just to be on the safe side because there is some very intentional anime-style graphical cheesecake in the opening movie that starts off this game. It seems completely unnecessary. I don't know what it adds to the plot, but I can imagine if you're somebody who likes anime cheesecake, then Panorama Cotton would be that much more desirable simply for the fact it fits into that niche. So put all four of those things together and you have the recipe for a game that's going to skyrocket. And there's even one more thing that may or may not actually play a part in this. JonTron did a video about weird Japanese shoot-'em-up games, and he included Panorama Cotton in his selection of games that defined the fact that when you live alone on an island for a few thousand years, you're going to come up with some pretty crazy things. He said that Tom Hanks lived on an island alone for a year, and he started talking to a ball, and made it his best friend. So imagine what you'd come up with if you were living on an island by yourself for centuries upon centuries. So that was his explanation for why the Japanese have such weird, unusual shoot-'em-up games. And really, if you think about stuff like Toilet Kids, Harmful Park, KO Flying Squadron, Choaniki, Zombie Nation, Parodius, he's pretty close to hitting the mark on the head there. There's a freedom of expression there that maybe Western audiences are just too puritanical for, but there seem to be no limits when it comes to the Japanese expression of whatever we can think of, we'll put in a game. No matter how crazy it is, we'll do it. And this one, well, yeah, it's crazy. Let me even try to explain the plot here. And it requires knowing that there are two previous Cotton games, because in the third one, Cotton's story begins when Silk's sister Knit comes to tell her Queen Velvet started saying things that don't make any sense. Yeah, okay. If you didn't know there were two previous games, you'd be like, what? On top of that, everything in this is a pun on some sort of fabric, so just get used to that fact right now. The Queen reveals she believes the world is falling into chaos and she's the only one who can save it, so she rides off to save the day. Silk and Knit discover that a burnt willow recently turned up in the castle garden, and that's why the Queen is acting so strange. Willows are these fruits that the creatures in the Cotton series eat. So monsters have been burning any willow they can find, and I guess she ate a rotten burnt willow and went nutty. And then in that cinematic intro to start the game, Silk was carrying a burnt willow. Cotton stole it from her thinking it was good and started to eat it, puked it up, and then started beating Silk over the head for giving her a bad willow. When Silk explains to Cotton what happened, Cotton becomes enraged, hops on her broom, and flies off to take revenge on the people burning the willows. That's where we enter the psychedelic, trippy world of Panorama Cotton. If you think it looks like Space Harrier or Space Harrier 2, you're not mistaken. It looks like that, and it plays like that, only it's cranked up by about 1,000. This is the volume way past 11. It's, if you took Space Harrier and put it on LSD, mushrooms, acid, and marijuana all at the same time, this is what you would get. This is Space Harrier on a fever dream. Space Harrier was already a pretty trippy visual game to begin with, and man, this one is really out there. And like, for example, these gates that you fly through, they're hands that are clapping together coming up out of the ground. Why? For what reason? And we've got these flaming Pegasus things that are jumping in front of our field. Are they good? Are they bad? Should I shoot them? I don't know. And it appears that Cotton's sister Silk is circling around her. I don't know if she's acting as a shield. I don't know if she's helping us auto fire. I don't know what any of this is, man. This game is nutty. This is nuttier than a Payday bar. Holy crap. But I have to say, that does add to the desirability of this game and the reputation that it holds. If you want something that's really out there, whoa, you're getting it with Panorama Cotton. It is fun, though. I can't justify the price that it goes for, but I can tell you, if you're playing this on an emulator or a Mega Drive with an SD EverDrive type thing inserted into it, then you're probably going to enjoy yourself. There are some very notable things about this. You can change the speed at which you fly through the level with the A button. You can go slow or fast, so take it at whatever pace you can handle. There are multiple tracks. You can go under and over, like this level where you go through the waterfall. There are two completely different tracks, and you can decide whether one's easier than the other and follow that one and make progress in the game whichever way you choose. And the sound effects, the soundtrack, the visual art style of Panorama Cotton, it is very distinctive. Like I said, it is Space Harrier, but this is Space Harrier if it was done by Sunsoft. And Sunsoft doesn't do anything half-assed. Almost every game they make is a quality title that holds up in modern times. So that too would cause this game to be more in demand for collectors, because some people collect every Sunsoft game. So it's as if they said to Sega, we like what you did with Space Harrier, now here's our take on it, deal with it. You know, what's really funny about that is the previous two Cotton games that came before this weren't Space Harrier style games. This one was a complete departure from what had been already established in the series. They were like, okay, here's what we want to do with the series now. It's like when Nintendo went from Super Mario Bros. To Super Mario 2, but then they decided that the second game was too hard for Western audiences, so they took a completely different game named Doki Doki Panic and changed all the sprites in it to look like Mario and his friends and said, oh no, we'll just do a complete departure from the original Super Mario and we'll release this in North America and we'll tell everybody it's Super Mario 2 instead of the stupidly hard game that we made in Japan. So we got a radically different Super Mario 2 and it was a blast to play. And then they ported it back to Japan as Super Mario 2 USA. Funny how that works, right? But this never got ported, so play it by whatever means you can, except perhaps owning it physically. And look, if you do have the kind of money to own it physically, or you already have a physical copy of it to begin with, then A, I envy you a little, and B, do what you like, man. Life's short. If you want to spend that money on Space Harrier clones, then please buy Panorama Cotton and enjoy yourself, because I'm not telling you what to do with your money. I'm just saying that for the cost of this one game alone, you could buy 2, 3 analog Mega SG consoles, and you could play it on any one of those 3. I started to say 2 because I was factoring in shipping, but before shipping, you could buy 3 of them. So, wow, that's really saying something. You could jailbreak an analog Mega SG and play this for cheaper than a loose copy of the game, let alone a complete one. So do that if you want to. But if they make a licensed version of this, if they decide to do a new print run for 2020, I'll be first in line to buy a boxed copy of Panorama Cotton. If Sunsoft teams up with IM8-Bit or Retrobit USA or Fangamer or whoever and puts out a copy, I'll be all about that. When they did Holy Diver, a Japanese exclusive Famicom game that never came out in North America, and sold it through Castlemania Games, I bought a copy. I'm certainly willing to invest in a physical product if it's less than it goes for on the collector's market. I'll take the reprint, the new print run, the reissue. I will go out and buy it just to say I'm happy to own a physical copy of this game that I've enjoyed playing for many years in other ways. It's not that I don't want to own them, I just don't want to pay $600 for them. $50? Sure. $600? No. But unless there's a new print run of Panorama Cotton, I don't see the price going down anytime soon because it's fun. There aren't many copies of it. It's very infamous. It's completely trippy, and you should at least try it for yourself. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. As always, thank you for watching. I'll see you again in a week for a new episode of Genesis Does.